In the last lesson, you learned two very important things. You learned how to form a negative statement, and you learned the first way to form a question. For example, with the negative statements, you learned that you use don't or doesn't. We say, I don't, you don't, but he doesn't, and she doesn't. Okay? And so a couple examples here. I don't live, you put the don't before the verb. I don't live in an apartment. You don't do your homework, which is shocking. He doesn't wash the laundry, and she doesn't listen to rock music. Okay? So that's a negative statement. Now, as for how to form a question, the first type of question was very simple. We simply put do or does, I forgot my English for a moment there, do or does before the beginning of the sentence, before the subject of the sentence, the personal pronoun in this case. So do you make the bed? Tell me the truth. Do you make the bed? All right. Do you make the bed? Or do I should know, but do I live in a house, for example? Or does he, because we're saying he, we're talking about him, we use z at the end of the word that forms the question here. Does he wash the dishes? Or does she listen to classical music? And you notice that when we said does he, we don't say washes, we say wash. Does he wash the dishes? And does she listen? Not does she listens, no. Does she listen to classical music? So those are the two things we learned in the last lesson. And in this lesson, we're going to put our focus on a second way to create a question. And this is called an end question. It's simply adding at the end of the question, do you? Or I should say adding at the end of the statement, because you're just going to make a statement, do you? Or don't you, as you'll see in a moment. Or doesn't he? Or does he? Or do I? Or don't I? Etc. Those are called end questions. Okay, so let me give you some examples here. First of all, I'll talk about myself. I'm very confused here. I live in a house, don't I? I live in a house. That's a statement. It's just a statement, isn't it? I live in a house, period. But to make it a question, I say, I live in a house, don't I? Okay. Or you make the bed, don't you? Or he washes the dishes, doesn't he? Or she listens to classical music, doesn't she? Okay, the doesn't she, doesn't he, don't I, don't you, that's how you form the question. That's called an end question. Okay, well, let's get into the exercises in the lesson and see if they help clarify this a little bit more. More important than simply being clear, we want to develop reflexes in you where you consistently use the right form, and that takes repetition, 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 repetition. Here we are in lesson 1.6, and if we go down to the second section, we have a review of the words you've learned thus far, many of them at least. You see that you have 45 seconds in which to say the words that correspond to these 24 different pictures. Here's the stopwatch, and so you have 45 seconds. I'll do this activity first as an example, and then you'll do it after me. So here we go. I click on, so you just listen, and I'm going to say the words. Here we go. I click. So I, don't or doesn't, say, do, does, you, she, wash, you, listen, live, he, make or do, I, you, make, do. She, do or don't or doesn't. Say, live. He, wash. Do or does. You, listen. And stop. So I had 6 seconds left, and you can see I was not going particularly rapidly or fast. So I think you can probably do this also. I'll go back to the beginning. I'll click on reset, and now you have 45 seconds again. And this time you're going to speak. You're going to say these words, and I'm going to relax and just listen to you. All right? So here we go. Ready? On your mark, you're going to say I first. On your mark, get set, go. Okay, go ahead. All these words. Keep going. Keep going. $25 seconds. $10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. Okay? Hopefully you were able to say all 24 of those words within 45 seconds. In the next section, here you have 1 minute. It's a very similar activity, but just a little different. You have 1 minute, as you see up here on the stopwatch, 60 seconds, in which to do the gesture this time. You see in this symbolic direction right here, you to do the gesture. And what will happen is I will click on a word, for example. I. And when you hear I, you will do this gesture right here. The next one is
listen.
Listen. So you'll do the gesture here. You don't have to say the word. You simply do the gesture. Okay? And so I will do this activity first as an example, and then you'll do it after me. Here we go. I start.
I. Listen. Live. He.
He's over here.
Do. Make. Don't. Doesn't.
Say.
Do. Does. Don't. Doesn't.
Say.
Wash.
Wash.
You.
You.
I.
I.
You.
You.
Do. Make.
Do or make.
She.
She's over here.
He.
He's over there.
Wash.
Wash.
Do. Does. You.
You.
Live.
Live.
You.
You again.
She.
She. Oh, I ran out of time and it's my own language. That's terrible. Well, for you it'll be a little easier because I'm having to click the words and then do the gesture. I'm going to click on the images for you, and you will simply have your hands free to do the gestures. Okay, so see if you can do better than I did. You're going to start right here. I'll click on I, and you will do this gesture. So you will do this gesture, and etc., and all the others as well. You have 60 seconds. Get ready, get set, and go.
I.
Do the gestures.
Listen. Live. He. Do. Make. Don't. Doesn't.
Say.
Do. Does. Don't. Doesn't.
Say.
Wash. You. I. You. Do. Make. She. He. Wash. Do. Does. You. Live. You. She. Listen.
Well, if you were able to do that, you beat me. You did better than I did. And I hope you were able to make it through all of those different words. I think there are 24 of them also within the time period of 1 minute. Well, next section, in section 4 here. Now it's your turn to just listen, and I will say and try and redeem myself. In this section here, we're practicing the creation of the second type of question. Don't I? Don't you? Doesn't he? Doesn't she? Okay, that's how we're going to form the question, but we're going to put the question at the end of the sentence. Okay, for example, so this image right here represents do I, or don't I, or don't you, or doesn't he, or doesn't she. This is you, this is live, and this is an apartment, one apartment, okay? And so to form this question, or this question, I'm going to start with this statement. I'll say you live in an apartment, and then I'll go back to the end question and say, don't you? You live in an apartment, don't you? That's the question, don't you? Okay? And so let's see if I was correct.
You live in an apartment, don't you?
There you go. I know my own language a little bit. You live in an apartment, don't you? Okay? The answer is yes. I live in an apartment.
I live in an apartment.
Okay? But the important thing is how to form the question. The answer is less important. Again, here we have don't I, don't you, doesn't he, doesn't she. It's going to be one of those depending upon the subject. And the subject is you. And so we're going to use don't you. Don't you. Okay? So here's you, there's make, and that's the bed. All right? So the question is, you make, notice I start right here. I don't start with the question word, the end question. I start with the subject. You. You make the bed, don't you? You make the bed,
You
don't
make
you?
the bed, don't you?
Okay, so that's the second way of forming a question. And the answer is no, I don't make the bed, which is not true in the least, okay? Now we're going to go to the third series of pictures, and I want you to form the question. But first of all, what does this one image, this one picture represent? What is this? What is it? Tell me. You say it. There are 4 possibilities at this point. Right. Well, the first is don't I, or don't you, or doesn't he, doesn't he, doesn't he, or doesn't she? Okay. So this could be any one of those. And the subject is he, so it's going to be doesn't he, but we'll leave that till later. What's this? Right, it's he. What's this? Wash. And this is the laundry, in case you don't remember that term. The laundry, the dirty clothes, okay? So what's the question? How do you form the question? Well, you'll start here, and you'll say, he washes the laundry. He washes the laundry, doesn't he? He washes the laundry, doesn't he? He washes the laundry, doesn't he?
He washes the laundry, doesn't he?
Okay. Doesn't he is the way in which we turn this into a question, this statement into a question. The answer is no, he washes the dishes. But the answer is not that important, I suppose. Okay, now, your turn to talk. You are going to say the next statements, and the next questions, I should say. You're going to also talk about what these images represent. What does this represent? 4 things. I. What would it be for I? Okay, it's don't I. For you, what would this be? Don't you. For he. Doesn't he. For she, what would this be? Right, doesn't she. Doesn't she. Those are the end question, the different possible end questions at this point. Okay? Let's, and this, by the way, what is this? Right, she, what's that verb? Listen, and this, music. Okay? So, form this question. You say this question right here. Go ahead. She listens, right? She listens to music. What's this? Doesn't she? She listens to music, doesn't she? Okay, and the answer could be such as, yes, she listens to classical music. All right, let's go to the next section. Again, we have 4 possibilities here, 4 end questions that are possible. For I, what would the first one be? I. Right, don't I? For you, what is this end question for you? Don't you? Right, for he. Right, doesn't he? For she. Doesn't she? Okay, so don't I, don't you, doesn't he, doesn't she. Okay, what's this? Right, it's I. And this? Say, and what's this? Well, in case you've forgotten, that's goodbye. Goodbye. Okay, so now form this question for me. Say this question. Start here. Say the statement, and then go back and add the end question. Go ahead, say it. Okay, hopefully you said, I say goodbye. Don't I? I say goodbye. Don't I?
I say goodbye, don't I?
Okay, and the answer is no. You say hello, but the answer is not that important, I suppose. Okay, so we're going to practice again the formation of these questions of the second type. Remember, the first type of question is with do or does. For example, do you listen to music? The second type of question is you listen to music, don't you? Okay, those are the 2 types. Let's look now at the second type of question using don't I, don't you, doesn't he, doesn't she. Okay, here we go. Say this question right here. You live, this is in an apartment, don't you? You live in an apartment, don't you? Okay, and the answer is not that important for right now. Form this question right now. What's this question? Okay, you make the bed, don't you? You make the bed, don't you? So we've had don't you twice. Now we're going to switch to he. Remember, when we say he or she, typically we hear zzz in the verb form. Okay, so it's going to be, what would this be? It's going to be doesn't. All right. So here we go. Say this question here. These are dishes. Or the dishes. Okay. He washes the dishes. Doesn't he? He washes the dishes, doesn't he?
He washes the laundry, doesn't he?
That said laundry. It's not true. That was dishes. He washes the dishes, doesn't he? Okay. Next one down. Number 4. How would you? This is the laundry here. How would you form this this question? Go ahead, say it. She washes the laundry, doesn't she? She washes the laundry, doesn't she? Okay. And last of all, go ahead, say this question. All right. You listen to classical music, don't you? You listen to classical music, don't you? Next. Okay, say this one. This is goodbye. Okay, hopefully you said, you say goodbye, don't you? You say goodbye, don't you? All right, so that's the second type of question. Remember, don't I, don't you, doesn't he, and doesn't she. Okay? Don't I, don't you, doesn't he, doesn't she? All right? Well, we're going to do the same thing now, but now we're going to look at both types of questions. So this is a very full, very complete activity. This is a statement, first of all. Then you'll form the first type of question, and then the second type of question. Let me show you what I mean. You'll say, you live in an apartment. All right, that's a statement. You live in an apartment. Then you'll form the first question. Do you live in an apartment? And the second type. You live in an apartment, don't you? All right, got the idea? Here we go. Let's do number one again. This time you. You say it. What's this statement? Say it. Right there. Okay, you live in an apartment. Apartment. You live in an apartment. What's the first question? The first form of question. Change that into a question. Right. Do you live in an apartment? Do you live in an apartment? Okay. What's the second type of question? Same statement. Now we're going to change it and make it into a question with the second type. Okay. You live in an apartment, don't you? You live in an apartment, don't you? Okay, try number two now. Say the statement. Say it. That's homework, by the way. Homework. And when we talk about homework, we do homework. We don't make homework. We do homework, okay? So, he does homework. He does homework. Question number one. Change that to be a question. This is difficult because you hear the word do twice. Does he do homework? Does he do homework? Okay, that's the first. What's the second type of question? Okay, just make the statement, he does homework. Doesn't he? He does homework, doesn't he? Okay, number three. This is music, of course. So make this statement. Say it. Say it. Right. Listens. She listens to music. She listens to music. What's the first type of question? Does she listen to music? Good. Does she listen to music? What's the second type of question? She listens to music. Doesn't she? Okay. Don't I, don't you, doesn't he, doesn't she. She listens to music. Doesn't she? All right. Number four. Make this statement right there. This is laundry. The laundry. You wash the laundry. First type of question. Okay. Do you wash the laundry? In second type. Is it don't you or doesn't you? Which is it? Doesn't you? Don't you? Right, it's don't you. So you wash the laundry, don't you? All right, and number five. Okay, you say goodbye. First type of question. Do you say goodbye? Second type of question. You say goodbye, don't you? Okay, very good. Now this is just reviewing negative statements. I'll just give you two examples, and we're not going to do the rest of it because it's not particularly difficult, and you're going to be doing this independently after the video anyway. So here we go. This is I say goodbye. Make it negative. I don't say goodbye. Okay?
I say goodbye. I don't say goodbye.
You live in an apartment?
You live in an apartment.
You don't live in an apartment.
You don't live in an apartment.
He makes, or he does
He
homework?
does the homework.
He doesn't do the homework.
He doesn't do the homework.
She listens to
She
music?
listens to music.
She doesn't listen to
She
music.
doesn't listen to music.
You wash the
You
laundry?
wash the laundry.
you don't wash
You
the
don't
laundry.
wash the laundry.
Okay, so you can do that afterward when you're working independently. Last of all, here we have a more challenging kind of activity where there are several different steps. We did one just like this in the last lesson. First of all, you form a question of the second type. So you live in New York. You live in New York, don't you? You live in New York, don't you?
You live in Detroit, don't you?
It says Detroit, that's New York. You live in New York, not Detroit. You live in New York, don't you? Okay. And the answer, so that's the first step. The second step, you listen to the answer to the question.
No, I don't live in New York. I live in Michigan. Do
Yeah,
you
I
live
don't
in New
live
York?
In New York. I live in Michigan. Do you live in New York? And the third step is you answer the question. Do you live in New York? Yes or no? Right, and you'll say, yes, I live in New York, or no, I don't live in New York. Okay, so those are the three steps. 1, 2, and 3. We'll do one more like that, just to give you the idea exactly what you're supposed to do. Form the question first of all. Go ahead, say it. Form the question. Okay, hopefully you remembered. He makes the bed, doesn't he? He makes the bed, doesn't he? And then the question?
Yes, he makes the bed. Do you make the bed?
There's the question right there. Do you make the bed? And now you answer the question. Huh. We say in English, that's an old expression, but my eye, which means I doubt it. You all said you make the bed, but I'm not quite so sure. But in any case, that was a good answer. Yes, I make the bed, or no, if you're honest, I don't make the bed. Okay? Good. These 4 different questions here that you're forming and 4 answers that you're giving will help prepare you for this video right here. You're going to watch a video where you and I are going to practice communicating with each other, having a conversation. So let's turn and watch that video right now. Hello. We're going to have a conversation. You and I are going to talk. We're going to talk to each other, and we're going to ask questions, but not type 1 questions, type 2 questions. All right? I'll ask you, for example, you live in New York, don't you? And you'll answer. You'll say, yes, I live in New York, or no, I don't live in New York. Then you will ask me the same question. All right? Here we go. You live in New York, don't you? You live in New York, don't you? Answer the question. I'm listening. Go ahead. You live in New York, don't you? Yes or no? Okay. Now ask me. Ask me this question. Say this question up here. Go ahead. No, I don't live in New York. I live in Michigan. I live in Michigan. All right, second question. Let's talk about this boy right here. He makes the bed, doesn't he? He makes the bed, doesn't he? Yes or no? He makes the bed, doesn't he? Okay, good. Now ask me the question. Say this question up here. Okay, ask me. Yes, I make the bed, of course. I'm a good husband. I make the bed. I make the bed, yes, every day. All right, next, let's talk about this girl right here. About this girl. She listens to music, doesn't she? She listens to music, doesn't she? She listens to music,
Doesn't she? Go ahead. Yes or no? Okay, good. Now ask me. Ask me if I listen to music. All right? Say this question up here. Go ahead, say it. Yes, I listen to music. I listen to, well, let me ask you this question. You listen to classical music, don't you? You listen to classical music, don't you? You listen to classical music, don't you? Okay, now ask me the same question. Ask me this question. Yes, I listen to classical music and I listen to rock music or classic rock music. Okay, one more question. Let's ask about you. You say hello, don't you? You say hello, don't you? You say hello, don't you? Okay, good. Ask me the question now. Ask me this question up here. No, I don't say hello. I say goodbye. Hello. We're going to have a conversation. You and I are going to talk. We're going to talk to each other, and we're going to ask questions, but not type 1 questions, type 2 questions. All right? I'll ask you, for example, you live in New York, don't you? And you'll answer. You'll say, yes, I live in New York, or no, I don't live in New York. Then you will ask me the same question. All right? Here we go. You live in New York, don't you? You live in New York, don't you? Answer the question. I'm listening. Go ahead. You live in New York, don't you? Yes or no? Okay. Now ask me. Ask me this question. Say this question up here. Go ahead. No, I don't live in New York. I live in Michigan. I live in Michigan. All right, second question. Let's talk about this boy right here. He makes the bed, doesn't he? He makes the bed, doesn't he? Yes or no? He makes the bed, doesn't he? Okay, good. Now ask me the question. Say this question up here. Okay, ask me. Yes. I make the bed, of course. I'm a good husband. I make the bed. I make the bed, yes, every day. All right, next, let's talk about this girl right here. About this girl. She listens to music, doesn't she? She listens to music, doesn't she? She listens to music, doesn't she? Go ahead. Yes or no? Okay, good. Now ask me. Ask me if I listen to music. All right? Say this question up here. Go ahead, say it. Yes, I listen to music. I listen to, well, let me ask you this question. You listen to classical music, don't you? You listen to classical music, don't you? You listen to classical music, don't you? Okay, now ask me the same question. Ask me this question. Yes, I listen to classical music and I listen to rock music or classic rock music. Okay, one more question. Let's ask about you. You say hello, don't you? You say hello, don't you? You say hello, don't you? Okay, good. Ask me the question now. Ask me this question up here. No, I don't say hello. I say goodbye.